Heraclitus said that much learning does not produce necessarily thought. And that's what I'm discussing in this episode. I'm talking about the importance of thinking deep and thinking long. Actually, the importance of thinking at the end of the day, that we need to get some deliberate thought put into our lives in order for us to become productive. We've said that there is a land of the invisible, the land of the divine, the land of the intangible things, that we only get to that land and we bridge the gap between the invisible and the visible, the intangible and the tangible, through our thoughts. In other words, if we are not thinking, then chances are that the lives that we are experiencing are normal and mundane and average, but the extraordinary kind of life that you're looking for is going to be brought to us through the conduit of thinking. And I want us to discuss one more way in which we can actually think. We've been discussing how to think long. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
Someone actually said that for the busy mind, it is painful to stop and think. Think about that. The fact is that we can have very many activities going on to such an extent that we don't have time to think. And when we do have time to think, when we force ourselves to think, it's a painful experience because we've cluttered our lives so much so that there is no space for thinking. And one would think that thinking should actually be the seed that enables us to do any other actions. We clutter our lives after thinking. Remember what R. Covey said? He said that if you wanted to put big rocks and pebbles in a jar, which one do you start with? You start with the big rocks because the pebbles can actually fit into the spaces, the crevices that have been left out by the big rocks. And that's what thinking is all about. You start by thinking, and then all these other activities can find space, believe me, in the day where they can fit. Therefore, thinking doesn't become some painful thing if you're a busy person. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be busy, we should only be thinkers. I'm saying that we should do both. But thinking should come actually first. And so the question will have been, what do we really do to think? How can we think long? And I've been giving you some of the pointers here. And the first pointer is that you've got to be deliberate. That's what I'm saying today. That if you're not going to put the big rocks into the jar first, chances are that you'll find yourself too busy to do anything. And in fact, too busy to think. So that if you stop to think, you are feeling a lot of pain. You're feeling like you're wasting time. You're feeling like there is better things to do than thinking. And yet thinking should become the foundation of our productivity. So the first thing we've got to do is to be deliberate. That means there's a time, there's a place, there's a day, and the distractions have been removed. The conducive environment has been created so that we can think. Believe me, if there is no deliberate intention for us to think, it's not going to happen. So the first thing, make sure there is a time, there is a place, there is an intention, there is an environment that can foster these thoughts. Secondly, be authentic. People normally say, I'm not a thinker, I'm not an intellect, I'm not an academician. We're not talking about that. We're saying that there are some things, there are some seeds of thought. Seeds of thought are things like your gifts and your talents, things like your passion, things like your anger, by the way, things like your compassion, things that you're passionate about, things like your own ideas that are just floating around. Don't tell me you're not a thinker. You are. The thing is that there's so much fodder for your mind to feed on, but you don't give it time and place for it to do. So start by being authentic. That means start by thinking on things that matter to you. Everyone does have something that matters to them. And then move on from there and take this advice of people normally say, think big. Think big becomes something that you do after the foundation of being authentic in your thoughts. Thirdly, be daring in your thinking. That's why we're saying that sometimes we think, but we don't think. And one of the reasons as to why you see that we don't think is because we don't think thoughts that are astounding. And I quoted Roosevelt, who said, far much better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though you're checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much because they live in the grey twilight that neither knows victory nor defeat. And this one is only done when we become daring and courageous in our thoughts. Today, I want us to talk about something that is very important in terms of our thinking. And it's simply this, number 4, let it be a habit. Be habitual in your thinking. In one of the episodes, we talked about momentum, and we say that the lifeblood of any success worth noting is momentum. And guess what momentum comes from? Momentum comes from consistency. And when consistency is in place, it forms a habit. Therefore, the thinking I'm talking about is not the arbitrary thinking, it is the critical thinking, the setting aside of the time to think and to brainstorm and to mind map and so on. But it's become a consistent element of your life. It becomes a consistent feature in every single day, maybe every single week. You have like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it is, depending, just to think. And I know there's some guys who normally do it I quoted Peter J. Daniels, who said that he does a week. Every week there is a particular day that he thinks, and he goes away, locks the door, instructs the family that under no circumstances should he be disturbed. The only thing he does is to think. He's made it a habit every single week. We learn the same thing from this man called Warren Buffett. We learn the same thing from this 1 hour rule, the 5 hour rule from these people, these big time entrepreneurs like Oprah Winfrey, these big visionaries. And they say that every single day they have an hour just to themselves. It is a habit. So if you're thinking and there is no habit behind it, chances are that you're not necessarily thinking. It's got to be a lifestyle. It has got to be one of those quote-unquote non-negotiables that you're going through in your life, in that every single day you are thinking, and you are thinking these deep thoughts. By the way, once you break that barrier, once you break that ceiling, you find that the habitual thinking is part and parcel of you. You're not struggling with it anymore. That's where Paul Fix comes in and says that the reason as to why many people get lost in their thoughts is because it's unfamiliar territory, that people seldom engage their minds, engage their brains to actually think, and therefore it becomes an unfamiliar thing. But when you make it a habit, you make it that this is my lifestyle, this is my momentum, this is my non-negotiable, it becomes part and parcel of your life. And no longer do you have it as a laborious exercise, you have it as an exciting exercise. Actually, you have it like something that you must be so obsessed with, something that you must do, come rain, come shine, because it is part and parcel of your life, and it is feeding necessarily into your productivity. In other words, the thinking long needs to be something that we are doing over and over again until it becomes part and parcel of our psyche. It is second nature. It is just, it becomes unconscious, so to speak. I know thinking is a conscious exercise, as in you've got to be present, you've got to be there, you've got to be not distracted, you've got to be alive in the moment, you've got to participate. It has got to be conscious. But what I'm saying is that if you make it more conscious and more consistent and more habitual, it becomes so much momentum that it's as if it's an unconscious exercise. You're no longer struggling with it. That is the way to do it. Number 4, make sure that your thinking is habitual. Tomorrow we're going to discuss another kind of element that is going to help us in our thinking. But until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.